So, hi everyone, my name is Sim. I'm the VP of Product at Echobox. I've been part of the Echobox team for about 5 years now, and I've got about 15 years of experience working in tech and AI. And today we're lucky to be joined by Anna Johnstone, who's the head of social at Hello Magazine and a long-time Echobox customer. Hi Anna, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Sim. Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm Anna, head of social. I've worked at Hello for 6 years this month, and I think used EchoBox for 5 years this year. So it's actually kind of like almost like shaped my time here. Yeah, let's get into
it. So today we'd like to discuss social media management in the publishing and media industry. Earlier this year, Echobox published our 2024 Publisher Trend Survey. So we can use some of the interesting insights from that to guide our conversation. So I'd like to start off more generally around social media management and what that looks like in 2024. So what does social media management mean to you in this day and age?
I think just from when I actually started as a writer. I was actually kind of a PA first in publishing, so I did a lot of organization. Then I was a writer, and then this job was actually my first kind of full-time social media job. And what I can say is I think it used to be a lot more focused, a lot fewer platforms. And what it is now is a lot more lateral. Like there's so many threads and so many strings and so many overlaps. I don't think there was such a like a Venn diagram of social and video as much 5-10 years ago. Now that's a huge part, and engagement, and also focusing writers on strategy. I would say perhaps it was not that I wasn't doing social media management 10 years ago, but perhaps it was just one or two platforms and kind of very, very similar to day, and goals that didn't really change a huge amount. Now, very, very lateral. But then also, I think in the whole social media sphere, I think anyone knows that it can be a really dangerous place, and also kind of wanting to be part of something a bit more positive. Social media is like, it's going to be around forever, no matter what our boomer parents tell us. It's with us forever. It is altered the way we behave, the way we absorb news, the way we interact with each other. And I think being kind of at the forefront is kind of scary, but also maybe you could hopefully steer it for some good. Or we can try at least.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So with so many different things going on at the same time, what do your priorities for social look like in 2024?
Traffic, I think, I think similar with all of your other clients, customers, traffic will always be top. But also this very much in the last kind of year or so, we've kind of remembered what social was always meant to be there for. And it was always kind of showcasing the bits you're most proud of and showcasing your brand. And that's actually been a really, really big focus for us actually recently. We've launched quite a few hubs on happiness and world and planet and second act. And sometimes when you can't rely on just using social for traffic, which was, it was just such a huge driver. It still is, a big part of us. But actually kind of like going back to basics and going back to kind of showcasing and highlighting work that we're proud of. So opinion pieces that we're most proud of, or commercial bits and pieces. And then also just still keeping on top of every new platform. I know even my group chats are like, have you heard of this platform, Anna? And I'm like, how do you know? You're I don't know, data analyst. Like I saw this on Twitter and I'm like, it's actually X now. So yes, constantly changing algorithms. So we can't always lean on it so much for just constant traffic. So using it to highlight other strands of our work.
So very similar sort of feedback was seen across the entire survey with regards to the declining traffic from Facebook. In fact, I think 63% of publishers highlighted it as their kind of biggest challenge in 2023. And obviously that means that increasing that traffic is going to be a priority for the year. What was the impact of that traffic decline for Hello?
It was huge, as you know, every other, you know, we speak to other publishers. It was it it was yeah, it was massive. But we really had ballooned. We had very, like, incredibly very small numbers. Not revealing exact numbers, but they were quite small, and then they really did balloon. You know, kind of like multiple folds. And then when they dipped a lot, they hadn't dipped back to our kind of original very small figures. So that's what I was trying to tell my boss. I was like, no, but we're still okay. Which you know, you can say till you blow on the face, and you can try and make some charts look better than others. But the fact is, our year-on-year decline was catastrophic. However, maybe, you know, we got complacent, and things everything you posted was basically just winning. It was very simple. And before EchoBox, you know, we did have to do a lot more like analytics and like strategy and what would work. And then things obviously became a bit easier for us. And then we just have to kind of pivot to doing, you know, not things manually as such, but really focusing and pivoting where needed.
And were there any specific strategies that you followed to try and mitigate that decline?
Yeah, so taking the time to analyze every single day, every single week, what works. You know, so for Hello, as we're kind of like an entertainment news brand, like royal brand, we do have cycles of you know, big shows that work, or royal calendars. So we can kind of, you know, look at what Strictly Come Dancing stories we did last year, you know, make those a priority this year, you know, to do our angles. Yeah, don't want to give away too many secrets, but yeah, but really kind of shifting our editorial focus when needed as well. So, you know, if we do need more royal stories, fewer royal stories, more lifestyle, less lifestyle, trying maybe something completely new in like harder news or sport or something. However, sometimes, you know, we'll have a dip for a week or so, and the previous month I'm like, great, I'll just up the reshares, I'll lower the reshares, because that's always been a really great tool we've used, and then it won't work this time. So then you actually have to just kind of email, pick up the phone, and talk to other social media managers, which I think is really important. Or reaching out to you guys as well has always been quite helpful as well.
Brilliant. And we spoke a little bit about some of the lateral kind of moves and moving to different platforms. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the other platforms that Hello experimented with?
So we still love TikTok. We're a very early adopter on TikTok, which we had so much fun, like so much fun in the office. We got a corgi for a day and shot lots and lots of brilliant things. Snapchat is still a big focus, even though there's also been declines on there for publishers as well. We just kind of launched on We Are 8, which is a very positive, both sustainable and kind platform. I think they're the newer ones that are a little bit different. Twitter X is still, I feel like people still can't call it X without saying previously Twitter, and I still don't even call it X. Just we've never really seen like a huge amount of growth or traffic from there. So that's basically exactly that. I've never really amended the way we use Twitter for years, which is probably maybe something I should look into. But yeah, apps that drive money, so Snapchat, or apps that reflect like Hello's values, which is kind of kindness, positivity, and safety online.
Makes sense. I was thinking about X/Twitter the other day, and I was thinking, I don't think the new name is X. It's actually X, formerly known as Twitter.
Yes, yeah. No, when you go on like articles, and you know, they're like, this celebrity tweeted on formerly known as Twitter, and it's just, yeah, no, I don't know what will happen in 10 years. Maybe we'll having this conversation in 10 years' time, still being like X, formerly known as Twitter.
Who knows? Maybe they'll change to a symbol next.
Yeah.
So getting more followers and engagement is a focus. I think 39% of the publishers in the survey mentioned that being a focus for them as well. And, you know, we spoke about diversification across different social networks, but also people have a need to diversify across the different metrics that they're looking at as well. One thing we have seen, though, is a lot of publishers don't see traffic or engagement or ad revenue or subscription revenue or all of those things as mutually exclusive goals. And instead, it's really about looking to maximize engagement and maximize traffic at the same time. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about which metrics are important to you.
I mean, as I'm sure you can imagine, it completely depends on platform. It also, for us, it depends on market as well. So we took over our US market, a US homepage a few years ago. And we actually saw some great traffic numbers when we first took it over. But in something that you're totally new on, I think focusing on traffic is kind of idiotic and narrow-minded. It's always got to be about growth. So in a newer market or a newer app, I think you've just got to kind of throw away any kind of like monetization, traffic goals, like just make sure KPIs very, very organic and very like understanding of that app. So or market, yeah. So if we're launching somewhere new, always growth, followers, etc. In our more established ones, so UK traffic, and by that we use users, and then also because we are focusing on much more of an engaged audience, both users to site and then also page views and dwell time, etc. However, for social, it's kind of my job to get people on the site, and then what they do on Hello is up to them, and also up to our fantastic team that are working on engagement. But yes, for me, engagement rate, so clicks and likes and shares and everything on posts, and users to site, and then following that step, the rest of the Hello team is working on making our content as special and premium as possible, so people stay.
Hello Magazine generally get fantastic engagement of the content that they're producing. How does the team maintain that engagement both on and off social media?
So that's also something that we are proud of, because Hello is such a kind of heritage brand. We've been around for 36 years, because we did the 30-year anniversary when I joined, so that was idiotic maths of me. And we've always been royal, A-list and high society focused, so we know that we do have a loyal audience, and it's such a iconic name. Off social media, we've just launched a specific royal club, which is for our big royal fans, where we put loads of exciting voice notes. We've got a newsletter from our royal editor who goes on the royal engagements. We've got specific hubs. We're working on Second Act, which is for perimenopausal and menopausal women. We've got happiness. We're launching more things with Planet. We've got our beauty collective, which are some experts that put together a newsletter of all different skin types, like very tailored recommendations. So it's a lot of using what we've got in-house, and as opposed to just writing articles every single day, focusing on what people are really, really good at, and investing some more time in those kind of core audiences that might be more interested in lifestyle or royals or celebrities. So yes, we've got our hubs, we've got our royal club, we've got newsletters, and also we do video series as well with various celebrities, that obviously goes on social, on YouTube, on site. I feel like I probably would have forgotten something there, but I'm sure. Yeah.
No worries, we can add it in later. Videos, this is a good point to talk about video a little bit. So a lot of that focus and engagement naturally pivots people towards video content, in different forms and different ways. And 72% of the respondents to our survey said that video creation was going to become more important for them in 2024. And Hello's been a pioneer in terms of that video content and creating really engaging video content. As you mentioned earlier, one of the first publishers to really go heavy on TikTok. So how do you manage to create really high quality videos that your audience are going to engage with?
Well, I hope we do. So thank you. I think so we've got a fantastic video team who work on a lot of premium content from shoots, kind of real behind the scenes of glossy moments that maybe our heritage followers love. But then also we took on someone specific in to join our team, to join social team and work on social video, just to really up the amount of videos just made for social, which actually, because when you open a Hello magazine and you've got all these kind of A-listers at I don't know, the BAFTAs or premieres or something, it really aligned with us well for them to just come to life on Instagram. We no longer downloaded pictures from Getty or other agencies. We downloaded videos. So instead of having someone, smiling on a red carpet, we could then have someone walking on a red carpet. So without a huge amount of tailoring, it automatically reflected our print content. One thing I think this is super important when it comes to video editing for social and making it as engaging as possible. I've always said this. I think it's really important to edit on a phone. If a video is being made for TikTok or Instagram, firstly, when you're editing on a phone, you can see where all the other kind of follow, subscribe, like buttons is. So, you're not going to accidentally put text over the description, which is where TikTok is, or things like that. And I guess when I first worked at Condé Nast years and years ago, I remember, I think it was the deputy CEO said at the time, they were always optimizing. This just blew my mind. As I was 22 years old, and I'd always just I'd consumed magazines all my life, and they had the breakdown of how people consume a website. So whether it is desktop, tablet, or phone. And I mean, back then, I think it was about 70% phone. I'm sure it's even higher now. So they said, whereas in the 90s, they used to create their website and then put it on a phone. Now it's almost everything is optimized for phone. So I think when it comes to video, having a big iMac and, this kind of fancy video suite, I don't think it's as important as using your phone and having your fingers where your follower would be watching it. That it's quite unique that you're putting on the same thing as people will be scrolling. So that's something. So editing on specific platforms, even if you've just edited the like raw video on another platform, always using TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. That's all I can think of right now. Using all their fonts, using their hashtags, using their trending sounds, etc. That I think really helps with engagement. And then we are trying to be a lot more 360 with using our premium content that we've made for site and showcasing that everywhere as well. And because I mean, there's lots of videos that might be kind of 10 minutes long, and on social, we've got the attention span of a gnat. So take from those longer form videos that might be shot beautifully in horizontal, then choosing those like most clicky engaging moments, cutting them down, and then choosing whether they go on YouTube Shorts or Instagram Stories. I think a lot of it is down to knowing the apps and then using them yourself a lot. And sometimes, like, now we're all getting to the point where my boss, her kids love YouTube Shorts, so often we're just like asking them, or they absolutely love one of our Snapchat shows. So after checking the analytics on, we've got a show called Crown Classified, and it's it's kind of news and deep dives into the royal family. So, you know, what, I don't know, Kate Middleton has for lunch, or, you know, what everyone got in their A-level grades or something. Often I post it, and then before I've even checked analytics, I'm like, Sophie, what do your kids say? And in the same breath, interns, because they're, unfortunately, hate to admit it, often over 10 years younger than me. So sitting down with them and saying, what do you really like? What do you like seeing? What excites you about other publishers? So yes, in a nutshell, talk to people that know the app the best, and create it for the app specifically to make it as engaging as possible.
Yeah, thanks. There's so much great stuff in there. I relate to the challenge of having to bring other people who are a slightly younger generation in and actually getting their opinions rather than working with my own.
Yes, I mean, because sometimes you'll have an idea and everyone in the office will say, like, I don't know who this person is. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, no, this is really, really cool. Everyone's doing this. I promise you, like, literally everyone's doing this. And then you get the work experience that's 19. You're like, excuse me, you know, Pippi. What, you know, have you heard of this person? Are all your friends watching them? If they say yes, well, you know, I'm not maybe as old as
You're onto a winner, definitely. And so you cover a lot of live events, and I think that's something that's quite unique in your video strategy. So I'd love to learn a little bit more about what does that process actually look like of taking the live content and sharing it?
I think we actually kind of want to go harder on this. We're already, you know, very, very proud of what we do. But going to those live events, so those red carpets, those you know, fancy galas, it's such a great place to ask celebrities questions. And when you've only got a couple of minutes, you can really you know, make them the most interesting questions. You've got to, you can't, it's not about sitting down for 40 minutes like we are maybe, setting the scene and getting to know them and then kind of getting into those questions. You really have to be super, super, super prepped. And we have a team, we've got a rota of our writers in our social team. So if something comes up, we can send whoever's on the rota to go to whichever premiere. Ideally, we like to have two people there. So we've got one person videoing and one person asking questions. Unfortunately, sometimes the press pen is, you know, absolutely tiny, so we can only have one person. Prepping the person, making sure that we know exactly who's on the guest list, having some generic questions that you can ask anyone. So good example, just before Christmas, what's the worst Christmas present you've ever had? Something that as a celebrity, even if you've only got one question, you can ask them. If they are someone that we've got a few questions for, perhaps they've recently left a show or they've recently opened up about a previous divorce or something, having some tailored questions. The one thing we did really invest in was a mini mic, because at premieres, when you are putting your phone in front of celebrities' faces, there's a lot of background noise. So we invested in a mini mic, which worked wonders for getting making it a little bit more polished. However, with Instagram story, so we put the work towards that, and then we tend to put the videos directly onto Instagram stories, and then save any really good ones to maybe post the next day, or also the writers will write up an article based on the quotes, which seems to really work. But like, Instagram stories is such a, I think that really changed social in obviously we all had, I guess Instagram in 2011 was, it wasn't polished at all. It was just you posting a picture of like your coffee or your daisy chain with a really terrible filter to make up for the iPhone 4 that we had. And then as soon as brands kind of got on it, and then it became a lot more polished, you know, you were then posting like flat lays and shoots and everything. And I think when Instagram stories launched in 2017, I remember the magazine that I was working for, And a few of my friends at brands, they were quite reluctant to use them because they were like, why would we post stuff that's not polished? Like, we're a brand, of course we want to post you know, like a beautifully edited bit of content, or, you know, a photo that's like super, super, super high quality. And I feel like Instagram stories kind of took social back again to what it was, a lot more kind of like rough and ready, organic, engaging. So yes, so for live events such as that, we always have one writer, a mini mic, and loads of questions, and going hard on Instagram stories. Specifically for lives, we did lives a lot during the pandemic. We did a lot of interviews on lives. Back when people could actually, you know, everyone was going to be on a Friday night. We experimented a lot more with like a lot longer video like that. But yeah, but for live events, we tend to get it all up immediately on its Instagram stories, and have a bit of fun, hopefully.
Yeah, sounds fantastic. I love the idea of using Instagram stories maybe for something which is less polished to test and learn, and then taking that and then saying, this is something we want to double down on and do a little bit more work on it the next day or whatever. But, you know, that's really interesting. So in terms of converting that engagement that you get on the videos into a source of revenue, how do you think about monetization of video content?
So we monetize our content on Snapchat. That's really, really, really great. So we've got ads between our shows and also our publisher stories. So that's it's very, very up and down. And Snapchat saw a decline at the same time Facebook saw a decline. So all of us publishers were like, why does everyone hate us? Everyone's focusing on creators. So that's been, but it has also been like a steady trickle of revenue. And then Facebook is also a good source of revenue, but it is always those longer videos that actually make us the money. So the longer videos are something that the video team look after, and social does a lot more of the kind of the shorter cut downs, which in our experience isn't making revenue. It's those longer, beautifully shot video editors, shot and horizontal, that are kind of above the 3-minute mark. So we experiment with a lot longer content on Facebook and on site for that reason. But any other video monetization on any other platform, we would be definitely one of the first to jump on. Twitter, X, formerly known as Twitter, they I think publishers did used to make quite a bit of revenue from that, and we used to post a lot of videos. You could do a kind of evergreen video that you could then just post multiple times, and then they pulled their advertising revenue. So we kind of just adjusted our strategy and kind of ignored it from then on. But keen to jump on absolutely anything, because we're publishers and it's 2024, and we need all we can get.
Makes total sense. So one final thread I wanted to talk about was newsletters. So you mentioned how that's becoming more and more part of your strategy. In your experience, how does social and email work together?
So I don't actually work on the newsletter team, and that's our audience team. However, social and audience do work so aligned together. In fact, when it comes to, for example, WhatsApp, I look after the channel, they look after the community. We work together a lot on breaking news. So we've got a breaking news protocol, as I'm sure any news team has. So once a story breaks, has it been written? Does it have a video in? Has it gone on Facebook? Has it gone on Twitter? Has it gone on Instagram? Has it had a push? Has it gone on WhatsApp? Has it got a newsletter? So anything that is worthy for breaking news protocol is both important on both social and newsletter. But as I mentioned previously, newsletter is where we have our engaged audience from the site that what was I trying to say here? What was the question? Sorry.
Just talking about how social and email can work together.
So for breaking news, it's pretty much exactly the same stories going out. I guess for newsletter, we have got people that might be very interested in a specific voice. So, for example, our beauty collective and our royal editor, people want to hear from someone with older skin or someone who has been on a tour with William and Kate or Harry and Meghan. Those people are also the ones that can speak directly to our followers on social. So there is definitely, yeah, quite a lot of overlap there.
Makes sense. So was there anything else you wanted to cover in terms of social strategy for 2024? Anything that we haven't really talked about?
I mean, I bet by next week there probably will be something, and I'll probably be emailing you, being like, "Have you heard of this platform?" At the moment, just completely trying to ride Facebook algorithm changes, knowing that a lot of publishers are in it together. As you know, my boss always says, it is sometimes throwing spaghetti at a wall and seeing what sticks. But that's kind of why social is exciting, because it is both creative and trying new things, but then it's also you still have to rely on data and strategy, which makes it just like the audience team with their newsletters and SEO. A good story can work because it's a good story, and it can also work because previous stories on that topic have worked. So yeah, as opposed to editorial, that they can work on much more creative things. And then, you know, there's probably the tech team that they do tech and data. I feel like audience, which covers social and covers newsletter, are the people that string it together. So and I hope it's not going to unruffle too much this year.
Well, I think that's a fantastic way to finish us off. Thank you very much for joining us today, Anna. I've really enjoyed the discussion, and I wish you and Hello continued success for the rest of the year.
Thank you so much for all your help. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.